everybody. I distinctly remember when I decided I wanted to be an artist. I was on a field trip at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, came around a corner, there was a Rembrandt painting, and I was mesmerized. I was probably about 9 years old. And I decided then I want to do that. Not necessarily be a Rembrandt, but I wanted to make art. What was interesting is what happened 10 seconds later, which was equally impactful. I wandered up across the kind of imaginary line and was very aggressively and abruptly interrupted by a guard. I'd gotten too close. And those memories are intertwined. When I think and see that painting, I think about that experience that happened with it. I can't separate them. And now when I look back, those are really influential of what I do now. I want to make things that do maybe mesmerize people but inspire people. I want to make art, but I also want to fix museums and how they operate. Museums are at a crossroads. They're having a really hard time attracting and retaining members, particularly younger audiences, and they're really mired in a hierarchy of doing things the old way and not changing to their audience. A lot of people feel their experience in a museum looks an awful lot like this. And my job is to make it more like this. So what I want to talk to you about is some of the methods that I'm using to do that, both on a national scale, but also here at the IMA. So I'm going to talk about how we are opening museums, making them more relevant, and making them more fun. So let's start with open. So in the museum context, often we think about open, we talk about access, and access often talks about the monetary barriers of coming into a museum. But actually the biggest barrier is perception. It's people not feeling the museum is for them. That's this elitist ivory tower, and it's really not for them, it's not for their friends, and it's really this dense thing to approach. We need to break all that down. The museum needs to be a place that embraces an audience, and embraces an audience equally. If you come to the park, or if you go to conceptual art exhibition in the gallery, those are equal audience. It should be a place that you want to bring your friends and family, and you want to talk about. So prior to coming to IMA, I spent 6 years working at the Walker Arts Center in Minneapolis. One of the projects that I developed there was called Open Field. We really literally took an open field and took it over and turned it into a space that was community-minded, collaborative, and an experimental laboratory for projects. But here's what was radical about it. Not only did we take projects that came from the institution and artists, we opened it up to the public, and we meant it. The public could bring projects to the field, and we would execute them. So some of the interesting things that came out of that were things like a weekly drawing club. In this version we did is a glow-in-the-dark overnight drawing club. Community square dance, an iron pour, a project where we actually wrote handwritten letters. We wrote love letters to people you knew, or you could write random letters to people in the phone book. So if you want to freak people out, you write them a handwritten letter. If you really, really want to freak them out, write it to a random person, and it's not a ransom letter. We did a car break-in workshop for kids. And we're going to be doing this, I'm bringing this to the IMA in June, and we're going to do an adult version of this as well, so teach you how to break into a car. We put art in places where you wouldn't expect it. So having music in the parking garages where people wouldn't expect to encounter something, breaking down those barriers. And then things here at the IMA. So both on a big scale, a week from today, I'm going to be unveiling a whole new line of programming at the IMA for 2015. We're putting a lot of these ideas into action here in Indianapolis. But some of it's already started, and some small things like putting hammocks and picnic tables around the campus, creating places for people to linger and to mingle and to connect. The next thing is about being relevant. How does art and life connect? So the thing I'm probably best known for, maybe infamous for, is this little film festival that we did at the Walker. And the idea behind it was taking content that's on your phone or on your computer that you view mostly by yourself, and taking it offline and turning it into a social experience. And cat videos seemed like the thing to do. So, curated a festival of cat videos, offered 10,000 nominations, and 10,000 people showed up. They backed up the freeway in 2 different directions, spilled all over the lawn of the Walker. Celebrity cats came. And the next day, we're on the front cover of the arts section of the New York Times. But then what was interesting is the story shifted. It became not the novelty of cat videos in the art museum, but it became what's actually happening there. And what I like to say is it's not about cats or cat videos, it's about watching cat videos together. The museum became a place that people connected over something that they were passionate about. And that was what the role of the museum was in that, and that's why it worked, and we did it sincerely. So the Cat Video Festival also turned into a phenomenon. It's now been 3 years, it's been in over 100 different cities, 7 different countries, everything from projecting on a castle wall in Northern Ireland to a punk club in Brooklyn, hundreds of interviews, and I think now we're up to 5 billion media impressions for the festival. And it's the most talked about and also the most attended event in the history of the Walker, whether they like that or not. So what other events do we do to connect people with art and life? So this is a project by Rolu where they actually had people in the public could join them to remake pieces from the collection out on the Walker, learning through making. This is an artist that built an igloo and had concerts for 2 people at a time. Or how do we crowdsource the community? In this piece, we had people that had these old push lawnmowers. They came to the field, we outfitted them with bells, and a bell orchestra mowed the lawn of the Walker. And then again, pieces here at the IMA. This is a piece by Stuart Hyatt that just was from a month ago in 100 Acres called E is for Equinox, where we crowdsourced 75 guitar players from the community and then played the loudest E chord in the history of Indianapolis. And lastly is fun. And we need to acknowledge that the arts are in competition for our entertainment time along with everything else, and that's okay. But it's to remember that fun doesn't have to be frivolous, and smart doesn't have to be boring. This is one of my career highlights. I know it's hard to see from back there, but a month ago, I got a New Yorker cartoon that was making fun of a project that I did, the Cat Video Festival. That's a huge career highlight. I've been spoofed by the New Yorker. Yes. So how do we have these interesting mashups of fun happening within things that are kind of based in art history too? So this is taking history of performance art, Fluxus, and putting it with live action role playing. Or having artists create a mini golf course. Or taking existing systems and hacking them. The CSA model for farm boxes created a program where we actually put art in the place of vegetables and introduced new collectors to local artists' work. Or something that's happening here, something as simple, and actually worked with John Beeler and Michael Kaufman, I know, who are here today, on this project called Avant Brunch. So we took the idea of listening to a record album quietly all the way through, mixed with sitting and eating a meal in the gallery. So how are we fixing museums? What's this all mean? For museums, what we really need to do is shift our perspective. It needs to be something instead of objects first and people second, it's people first and people connect through those objects. We also need to get over ourselves and quit taking ourselves so seriously, particularly speaking as a curator. This is me. I'm not afraid to get dirty and put on wigs and be part of these events. But it's also having ideas of access to curators. I'm actually starting a program where once a month I'm having open office hours and anybody can come and pitch an idea and talk to me about things within the museum. And we need to put that sense of awe back into the museum. That same thing I felt with that Rembrandt, I want that to happen more frequently. And finally, the museum should be a place of connection. It should be a place that we come and debate, we have conversations, sometimes maybe even have angry debate, but also be a place that we share in things we're passionate and joyful about. Now, the one thing is, how do you do something and enact all of this inside of a museum? How do you do this really quickly? What's the process for that? Is there any tensions? It's a much longer lecture, much longer talk, but I'll leave you with this. And it says, because it's small, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, so questions are coming in, so make sure that you enter those and vote the ones up you want me to ask. So one of the first questions coming in is, how can the IMA engage more with the surrounding residential neighborhoods and residents? So where you are.
It's a good question. So this is one of the things that's going to be rolling out here next week, but we're actually getting a mobile art cart that will be going out in the community. The biggest thing at the IMA is it cannot stay within those walls. It needs to be out in the community and active. I also think it's something there that we need to be coming to more community meetings, and we need to be out in more fairs and festivals out in the community and not stay within our walls.
And some of the work you're doing immediately around there will be impacted by that?
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
Let's talk about talent. So how do you attract talent at the IMA? Is it from afar? Is it here locally? What are you doing there?
It's both. So I think the hope is that my department is completely new. So, and even having a curatorial position doing this work is really unique in the whole country. And I'm having people already starting to come to us because they want to learn from us as being a feeder for that. But also I'm hoping that we can create that talent both here from the local community and be drawing nationally from that.
What's the relationship between the IMA and businesses, and what should it be going forward?
Well, I think it varies. I mean, obviously we have sponsors for some
Sure.
things that are there, but I think what it should be is that we should be more of an active participant. I think the role of a large arts institution like the IMA in the community is to be a role that we should be bringing in things that can't come from smaller organizations. We should be playing that role. And we also should be bringing in talent. The stuff that we're doing should be one of the reasons why people want to attract talent to come to Indianapolis and stay here. I think we can make this a really exciting place and much easier to maybe sell to prospective people that are coming in, which benefits the businesses. I know when I came here, I was sold on Indianapolis. It worked.
Congrats.
And I was very excited about what's happening here. I think there's so much potential and things that are already happening, but I think this feels like a city that's so much on the rise, and to be part of that is actually a really easy sell.
So another way a relationship could happen is working with them for spaces and
Correct.
experiences. Have you done that, and what's sort of your scope of that going forward?
Yeah, I think it's to look for opportunities where they may exist. I think it's where we can kind of look out in the community and like where there may be an opportunity to find a space that we could inhabit. There's a lot of other groups doing that. We work a lot with Big Car too, kind of partnering to do that type of work. I'm always looking for places that are where you don't expect it to happen. And doing a lot of like pop-up events and things that are kind of rogue. And I love this stuff too where you can't tell if that was really sanctioned or should have happened or not. That's some of my favorite stuff.
Well, that kind of goes into the one that everybody wants me to ask, which is who decides what fun is? Who's the guardian of fun in here in Indy, and are they open to culturally diverse ideas? What's your view?
I decided it was fun. No, I think it varies. I think the biggest answer to that too is that things need to be diverse. You do need to have culturally diverse ideas. We try to strive to have a mix of things. But the other thing is an audience is not monolithic. I think the biggest thing in this too is not thinking an audience is one thing. And this is where museums fail often, is they think their audience is all the same. It's not. There's people that come for different things. There's people that will come to the IMA that want to come to Trick or Treat, which is an event we're going to be doing next year. There's people that may want to come and walk through the gardens. There's people that want to come to a film program. There's people that want to come to the galleries. And my goal is that I don't care what it is that brings you there. My hope is that it's a very diverse experience and I get you to cross over and check out some of the other things. The biggest thing is getting you on campus and thinking about it being a place of value to you.
In your past experiences, how do you balance sponsor interest, big donor interest versus general public that just may want to do something completely different?
It's always a little bit of a challenge. I've been fortunate just kind of how my positions are set up to not have a lot of pressure from kind of having sponsor interest drive a lot of it. It's been a lot more that if I create interesting things here, all that other stuff kind of takes care of itself. The biggest tension for me is actually internal in the museum, of things that you don't expect and don't work the same way museums are used to working. The community is actually embracing this, and businesses and things are really open and excited about this type of programming because it's very populist. And I like things, and I think about my way of curating as being kind of where I like where the art world's uncomfortable because it's too mainstream, and I like where the mainstream is a little too artsy. I love that little tension right there.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to have it. And I think it takes care of a lot of those things when you're in that space.
Is it possible for us to have a cat festival?
Okay, I can do it. Sure.
You think you can do it? All right. Well, thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.